The studio went silent. Cameras were rolling. And then, Diane Abbott said it. Live on national television, she dropped a sentence that sent shockwaves through British politics. It wasn't about policy. It wasn't about party strategy. It was about Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, and a private affair that, according to Abbott, wasn't so private anymore. The look on Starmer's face? Frozen. The reaction online? Explosive. And for the first time, people weren't just asking about Labour's future, they were asking who really controls the truth behind its top leaders. It was meant to be another political talk show. A calm debate on Labour's standing ahead of the next general election. But nothing about what happened that night was calm. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, was present on a different segment earlier that day. Angela Rayner, the party's deputy leader, had also been in the media recently over tax matters and housing claims. But Diane Abbott? She was quiet for weeks. Rumors said she had been pushed out. Others claimed she was just tired of the games. No one expected her return to public TV to be this loud, this sharp, and this personal. Diane Abbott has always been a strong voice in the Labour Party. She was the first black woman elected to Parliament. She has faced racism, insults, and even pressure from her own party. But she never backed down. Even after having the whip removed by Starmer's team last year, Abbott remained a name no one could ignore. And when she agreed to appear on a live political panel, the producers expected fiery commentary. They just didn't expect what came next. The show was halfway through when the conversation shifted toward trust and leadership. A guest said the public no longer believed politicians. That's when Diane leaned forward, looked into the camera, and said something no one saw coming. "I find it hard," she began, "to take lectures on honesty and trust, especially from a man who can't even be honest about his own relationships." There was a pause. The host blinked. The other guests froze. Abbott continued, "We pretend things are normal in the party. But behind the scenes, everyone knows what's been going on between Keir and Angela." The studio went quiet. You could almost hear the cameraman stop breathing. Was this a slip? A vague accusation? No. Diane made it clear. She was accusing Starmer and Rayner of having a secret personal affair, something that had never been officially confirmed or addressed before. She didn't stutter. She didn't backtrack. She said it live, with full confidence. Viewers rushed to social media. Within minutes, clips of her statement were trending on Twitter and TikTok. Hashtags like #Starmer affair, #Diane drops bomb, and #Rayner scandal shot to the top. People were divided. Some believed it was a desperate attack from someone who felt betrayed by her party. Others said Diane was finally speaking what everyone had quietly suspected for years. In the hours that followed, political commentators scrambled to respond. No official statement came from Starmer's team. Rayner's press officer declined to comment. But inside Labour circles, panic had started. The timing couldn't have been worse. With the general election looming, Labour had been gaining ground. Starmer's image was carefully controlled, calm, responsible, a safe pair of hands. This scandal, true or not, was a firecracker thrown into the middle of that image, and Diane Abbott? She didn't seem shaken. When asked off-air whether she stood by her words, she simply said, "The public deserves honesty. Even when it's uncomfortable." This one sentence changed the conversation. What was supposed to be another political program became one of the most viral TV moments in recent UK political history. Not because of facts and figures, but because one woman decided she had stayed quiet long enough. Now, questions hang in the air. Was Diane telling the truth? Was this revenge? Or was it something else, an intentional move to shake up Labour's inner circle? The next hours would reveal how serious this would become. But one thing was already clear, this was no longer just about politics. It was personal. And it was public. What Diane Abbott said was only the start. The real shock came in how she said it, and what followed after. This wasn't a slip of the tongue or a vague comment made in passing. Diane's voice was steady, her tone sharp. She spoke as someone who knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't reading from notes. She wasn't unsure. She delivered her words like a judge delivering a final verdict, and that made everything feel even more real. The host, clearly startled, tried to steer the conversation away. "Diane, are you suggesting something specific about the Labour leadership?" he asked carefully, trying not to pour fuel on the fire. But it was already too late. Diane didn't hesitate. "I'm not suggesting. I'm confirming. Everyone inside Westminster knows. And pretending otherwise only insults the intelligence of the public." The silence in the studio was deafening. Other guests looked at each other, unsure of what to say. A political analyst tried to shift the focus back to policy, but the moment had already taken over. The camera lingered just a second longer on Diane's face, and you could see it. This wasn't just about gossip. This was personal. Emotional. Deliberate. By the time the program went to commercial, social media had exploded. Viewers had already clipped and uploaded the moment. One 20-second clip had over 1.2 million views on X, formerly Twitter, within an hour. Comment sections were filled with reactions ranging from disbelief to support to fury. Some said Diane was finally exposing the fake unity inside Labour's leadership. Others accused her of dragging personal matters into public politics. But most viewers couldn't deny the power of what just happened. This was not the usual safe, scripted party line. This was raw and real, more shocking than her words was. The reaction, or rather, the lack of one, from Starmer and Rayner. At the time of broadcast, both were attending unrelated events. But soon, reporters began chasing them down for a response. Starmer left his event without speaking to the press. Rayner, spotted hours later outside Parliament, looked visibly tense and refused to comment. By the end of the day, the Labour Party had not released any official statement. No denial. No clarification. Not even a short tweet. That silence spoke louder than words for many watching. Meanwhile, Diane was not done. In a short interview outside the studio, she said calmly, "I've said what I needed to say. The rest is up to the public and the press." That only fueled more questions. If she was lying, why didn't she take it back? If she was telling the truth, why now? Inside political circles, insiders began leaking small hints. Anonymous sources close to Labour admitted tensions had been brewing for a long time between the leadership and Diane. Others said this was a planned move, meant to disrupt, distract, or maybe even destroy a political image that had been carefully built over the past few years. But even deeper than the gossip was a growing sense of betrayal among party members. Some believed Diane had gone too far, publicly attacking her own team. Others believed the party had left her no choice, that after being pushed out and publicly ignored, this was the only way she could make herself heard. What made everything worse for Starmer and Rayner was how calm Diane remained through it all. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse with hate. She simply stated it, like a teacher reminding a student of a fact they already know. That made it harder to discredit. It didn't feel like a meltdown. It felt like a revelation to AS media. Outlets rushed to cover the story. Major newspapers like The Guardian, The Telegraph, and the Daily Mail ran headlines that couldn't be ignored. Diane drops bomb, Labour torn apart on live TV, and what did Starmer hide became front-page material. Public trust, already fragile due to years of political scandals across parties, took another hit. Polls showed a sudden dip in Labour's trust rating just 24 hours later. Not because people believed every word, but because no one denied them either, and that's where the real danger lies for Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. Not just in what was said, but in what they refused to say after. Because in politics, silence often screams the loudest. Now, the entire country waits. Will there be a denial? A legal warning? A press conference? Or will they continue to hope the storm passes on its own? One thing's for sure, this moment has already entered political history. And Diane Abbott, love her or hate her, has made sure her voice won't be ignored ever again. Asterisk. As soon as Diane Abbott's statement hit the airwaves, the internet lit up like wildfire. Within minutes, hashtags like #Starmer scandal, #Rayner affair, and #Diane exposes all began trending across X, TikTok, and Instagram. Political commentators, celebrities, and everyday users all jumped into the conversation. Some were shocked. Others said, finally. But no one could deny, the Labour Party was now facing a public storm unlike any in recent memory. Clips of Diane's statement were reposted thousands of times. Memes surfaced within the hour, with Starmer and Rayner photoshopped into romantic dramas and scandal movies. But behind the humor, something more serious was brewing. Trust was cracking, and not just among the general public, but within the Labour Party itself. The first real political consequence came from inside Labour. Several backbench MPs, already uneasy about Starmer's leadership style, began speaking off the record to journalists. One said, "There's a reason Diane said that with confidence. People in Westminster have been whispering about this for months." Another warned, "The silence from leadership is dangerous. If this isn't true, they need to say so, fast." This wasn't just gossip now. This was a test of leadership. Starmer and Rayner had built their public image on being calm, honest, and professional, especially in contrast to the chaos of previous party leaders. But this moment of silence, when the nation demanded clarity, only made them look more uncertain. Meanwhile, Tory MPs wasted no time. Several Conservative voices took the opportunity to throw jabs at Labour. One tweeted sarcastically, "Labour promising family values, but can't even keep their own house in order." Though most avoided saying the affair was true, they all knew this was a perfect political weapon in local Labour groups, especially in urban areas where Diane Abbott holds influence. Members were split. Some said her actions were reckless and damaged the party. Others felt she had done what no one else dared, pull the curtain back on the fake unity at the top. Social media influencers and podcasters picked up the story quickly. Political podcasts released emergency episodes. On TikTok, young voters debated whether the scandal should matter at all. "It's their private life," some said. "But lying to the public isn't," others replied, and then came the press. By the next morning, headlines dominated the UK's biggest papers. The Mirror ran, "Starmer's silence grows louder." The Times questioned, "Is the Labour Party imploding from within?" And The Sun didn't hold back, "Affair at the top. Diane blows it wide open." For Labour, the timing couldn't be worse. With the general election only months away, this type of scandal, true or not, has the power to change voters' minds. Public trust is already low across all political parties. Starmer had been rising in the polls, presenting himself as a safe choice after years of political chaos. But now, his silence was feeding suspicion. Angela Rayner, known for her sharp tongue and confidence, also remained quiet. That shocked many. Her usual style was to tackle controversy head-on. Her silence now felt unusual, and that only added to the public's curiosity. In political strategy rooms, advisors likely panicked. Should they issue a flat-out denial? Would that make it worse if new evidence came forward? Or should they wait, hoping the storm passes? And then came a key development, an insider leak. A journalist from The Independent claimed to have received texts from a source close to Labour's HQ. The message read, "They're in full damage control mode. Phones are ringing non-stop. Everyone's being told to say nothing and wait." If true, it confirmed the worst suspicion, not just that something had happened, but that the party was more focused on hiding it than fixing it. Public reaction grew more intense. Petitions started demanding Labour leadership address the claims directly. Talk shows debated whether Diane Abbott would be suspended or protected. Some suggested her comments could be a breach of party ethics. Others argued if she said it publicly, maybe it's because no one inside was willing to listen privately. The scandal also stirred discussion around gender, power, and truth in politics. Why are affairs always political suicide for some and ignored for others? Why do women, like Diane or Angela, face harsher judgment than their male counterparts? In this noise, one voice stood out. Carol, a retired teacher from Manchester, went viral on Facebook with a post that read, I don't care if Starmer and Rayner are in love or not. I care that they think they can lie and still lead a country. Diane's got courage. The rest? Just shadows. That post was shared over 300,000 times. By the end of day 2, Diane Abbott still hadn't walked back her claims. And still, Starmer and Rayner said nothing. Political watchers now believe the scandal won't vanish quietly. It has touched a nerve. Whether true or not, the story has exposed a deeper crack in Labour's unity. A party that once appeared ready to take power now looks unsure, unsettled, and strangely quiet at the worst possible time. In politics, damage isn't always caused by truth. Sometimes, just asking the question is enough to burn everything down. Why did Diane Abbott do it? That's the question echoing across every political podcast, newsroom, and backroom in Westminster. Was her on-air statement a brave act of truth-telling? Or was it a calculated strike, born from frustration and revenge? As the shock of the scandal begins to settle, the focus has shifted from the claim itself to the woman who made it. To understand Abbott's motive, we need to rewind. Diane Abbott is no newcomer to controversy or to internal Labour Party battles. She has served in Parliament since 1987 and has been a key figure in the left wing of the Labour Party. She was a strong supporter of Jeremy Corbyn and, under his leadership, held the role of Shadow Home Secretary. But after Corbyn stepped down and Starmer took over, everything changed. Starmer tried to clean the slate, move Labour toward the political centre, and distance himself from the Corbyn years. In the process, he sidelined many key figures of that era, including Abbott. Some say she was pushed out without reason. Others say it was political strategy. Either way, Abbott didn't take it lightly. Her removal from the Parliamentary Labour Party last year, after her controversial letter on racism, was seen by many as the final blow. While Starmer eventually offered to restore the whip, it never actually happened. Diane remained on the outside, and Labour leadership never explained why. That silence built tension. Political isolation can break weaker voices, but Diane Abbott has never been weak. She waited. And when she returned to the spotlight, she brought all the quiet rage. With her DSO, when she made the explosive claim on live TV, it didn't feel random, it felt personal. It wasn't just about exposing a scandal. It was about reclaiming power. About sending a message, I won't be erased quietly. But was it revenge? Some insiders believe Abbott finally reached a breaking point. They claim she was humiliated. For too long, shut out of decisions, kept off major platforms, and treated as a liability by her own party. To them, her actions weren't random. They were a response to months, maybe years, of silent disrespect. Others believe there's more to it. They say Diane has long known about tensions between Starmer and Rayner, and that many within the party have whispered about the alleged affair in private. According to these sources, Diane simply said what others didn't dare. Still, her motives remain under scrutiny. Was it ethical to go public without proof? Was it fair to bring personal lives into political conversation? Abbott's defenders say yes. If you claim to lead with integrity, your personal actions matter, one supporter said online. Diane held up a mirror. It's not her fault if the reflection's ugly. On the other hand, critics say this was a low blow. A dirty tactic. Meant to embarrass, not inform. They argue that without evidence, Abbott may have just created a scandal that distracts from real issues, like the economy, healthcare, and education. But let's not forget the bigger twist, there have always been rumors. This isn't the first time whispers about Starmer and Rayner have circled. Over the past year, there have been quiet murmurs within Parliament. Observers noted their close working relationship, frequent joint appearances, and subtle shifts in tone. But no proof ever surfaced. The media didn't run stories, perhaps out of caution, or fear of legal action. But the silence didn't erase the curiosity. Abbott's statement didn't introduce a brand new idea. It simply dragged an old rumor into the light, and gave it a voice of credibility. Her status as a veteran MP made people stop and ask, what does she know that we don't? Still, the lack of evidence is a problem. No photos. No leaked messages. No second-hand confirmations. At least not yet. That leaves the public in a gray zone, where anything could be true, or nothing at all. Legal experts have quietly warned that Abbott could face consequences if her statements are deemed slanderous or false. But others argue she has cleverly protected herself. She didn't use graphic details. She didn't claim to witness anything. She simply confirmed what everyone knows, a statement vague enough to dodge legal traps, but clear enough to stir the nation. And then there's the silence. Still, no word from Starmer or Rayner. No denial. No statement. No press conference. It's been days, and yet, not even a social media post. That silence has led many to believe Diane might be telling the truth, or at least a version of it, because if it were false, wouldn't they be fighting back harder? Political strategists now worry about the long-term damage. Even if the claim is never proven, it has planted a seed in the public's mind. Voters now associate Starmer and Rayner with secrecy, scandal, and a lack of transparency. That might be enough to shake voter confidence, especially in swing regions. Meanwhile, Diane Abbott's support has only grown. Hashtags like #DianeTheBrave and #SheSpokeTruth trend every night. Petitions demand her reinstatement to full party membership. Young voters, in particular, seem energized by her defiance. In the end, the truth might never be fully known. But Diane Abbott didn't just expose a possible affair, she exposed how fragile trust can be in modern politics. One sentence. One TV appearance. And suddenly, the entire future of Labour leadership is in question. As for Abbott, she walks through the storm with her head held high. Whether she's remembered as a truth teller or a political fire starter, one thing is certain, she's not fading quietly. Not anymore.